Welcome back, dear students. Let's continue Ulysses, a beautiful monologue from the pen of Alfred Lord Tennyson, the greatest poet as well as representative poet of the Victorian age. Let's look at forever and forever when I move. So he says that the margin of the untraveled world all the time is moving, or all the time it moves. He means to say that the more he goes close in the direction of that world, that part of the world he has not traveled so far, he realizes that it all the time moving away, going away from him. He means to say that it is almost impossible to get the complete knowledge of this world or of anything. One life, not even many lives. In the further lines he speaks that one life is not sufficient to get the knowledge of this world, but many more lives. Actually, one requires or one needs to get the complete knowledge of this world. See further what he says. How dull it is to pause. So he says, how boring, dull, boring, to pause, stop, to make an end. Means to rust, unburnished, burnished, that is something that is shining, unburnished, something that is not shining, not to shine in you. So he says, how life becomes dull, how a life without motive, without an aim or goal becomes absolutely dull and boring. Since Ulysses has traveled a lot, he has been the part of certain action, not for some days, some months, but for many years. It's all because of that. Now he finds no interest in a kind of a life with no objective, no adventure, no enthusiasm. And here his life in Ithaca is absolutely meaningless, and that's why he says that life becomes very dull and boring if it does not have a certain goal to achieve. It does not have adventure in it. It does not have enthusiasm in it. If one does not have something to explore or learn, he says, to rust unburnished. So here he makes use of, he gives a kind of a reference of the arms. Like for example, take the example of the gun. If the gun is not used for a certain period of time, what will happen? The iron used in the gun will start rusting. If the sword is not used for a long period of time, will the sword be in the position to be used? No. Sword is made of metal, and if metals are not used, metals are not well polished, metals are not taken proper care of, they will start rusting. That will lead to their destruction. They will become useless. Same is the case with the life. He says that if life becomes meaningless, if life does not have an aim, if one does not have an aim, one does not have an objective, then one's life becomes absolutely dull and boring, and that leads to the death of that uneventful life. He does not want to die like a dog. He means he wants to die just like a warrior dies. This poem, see how this poem, through this poem, just you can say Tennyson is advocating for action. How is he glorifying action? Whereas, how is he glorifying inaction in his next poem with the same hero Ulysses? That is lotus eaters, and that's why this poem is called the poem of action. And lotus eaters is called the poem of inaction. So he says, life is absolutely meaningless. Life is just like a rusted sword if it does not have aim. He wants to shine just like the sword shines when it is used, as though to breathe were life. So he says, what does the mere existence of the life mean? We are here simply born to breathe. He says what? As though to breathe were life. This is life. If we are simply eating, drinking, sleeping, breathing, is it life? Is this life worth living? Such kind of a dull and boring life can be called life. Such kind of existence can be called life. For Ulysses, at least for Ulysses, such kind of life cannot be called life. Life must be full of action, adventure. Why? Because he has traveled as many as 10, 20 years and traveling on the water of the sea, you know that, full of risk and adventure and danger and enthusiasm. And if such kind of a person is given the life of a king with no action and with savage people, will that life be worth living for that person? Never. He says, so breathe were life, life piled on life were all too little. So he says, see, one life is not sufficient to get the complete knowledge of this world. One needs many lives to get the complete knowledge of this world, to explore this all world. Because the more we explore, we get to feel that there is a lot to explore. Like for example, just look up a word in dictionary. You will realize there are thousands and lakhs of words there to learn, to see. Same is the case with the knowledge. So he says that one life is not sufficient, but even life after life is not sufficient to explore this world, to get the complete understanding of this world. And here his life is just going to end. A little part of his life, this one life, is now left. So how can he allow himself to waste those few pages of the just a book of his life? No, those few hours of his life, he wants to make the most of the remaining days of his own life or remaining years of his life. See this. Life piled on life means one life after the other life. were all too little, and of one to me. And he says, and my one life, little remains, and the one life that I am given, a little bit part of my this one life is left, remains left. So how can I let it go? How can I allow myself to waste a few hours or few days or few weeks or few months or few years of my life to waste it? No, I cannot stop. Now definitely I'll go on one more voyage. See what says. But every hour is saved. He says, now I will save. I will make the most of every hour of my own life that is left. From that eternal silence. The eternal silence, here death is called eternal silence, eternal permanent. So death silences us forever. So he says, whatever hours of his own life are left, or whatever days, whatever weeks, whatever months, whatever years, is just not going to waste. Before he experiences that eternal silence, before he dies, he wants to make the most of each and every hours, each and every days, each and every weeks and months and years of his own life. He doesn't want to waste even a single minute of his own life. He says, something more, a bringer of new things. So something more, he wants to learn something new, a bringer of new things. He wants to utilize the remaining days of his own life in bringing something new, in learning something new. He means to say that. And while it were for some 3 sons to store and hoard myself, and while means bad it were. So he says he has wasted as many as probably 3 years. He means to, here 3 sons probably stand for 3 years. Why? Because probably the earth completes its rotation or revolving of the sun in a year. So he means to say that here he has wasted his 3 years in Ithaca. It means 3 years back he came from that war of Troy. And he took many years to come back. And for last 3 years he has been here residing in Ithaca and ruling the savage people, savage race of his own country. And he has done nothing worthwhile. So now he does not want to waste any longer. So he says, and while it were, and he says it was bad on his own part for some 3 sons. 3 sons here, I told you, means 3 years to store, to collect, save, who would also collect myself. And this gray spirit, see, here he compares himself to something that is gray. Gray is the color of the old age, negative color. This gray spirit, yearning, desiring, longing, in desire to follow knowledge like a sinking star. So he says, now he has already wasted 3 precious years of his own life in doing nothing and simply ruling these savage people. Now he once again he has a strong desire, a strong longing to get up, to call his all mariners, All his mariners are probably in front of him, hearing him. Dramatic monologue. He's been addressing his words to someone. So he says now, once again, he wants to go on the last voyage of his own life. And he wants to follow knowledge just like a sinking star. See, time and again here, just Ulysses has made or has given reference of star. Why? Because you know that stars played very important role in the life of the seamen, in the life of the explorers in the olden time, because these stars and their position somehow help them in navigation, somehow help them in guiding. These stars guided them to their way, or guided them on their way to certain place. And that's why here time and again he has here made use of this. And see, when he talks about all that this life is absolutely vile, mere breathing is life. If he talks all about this thing, somehow here we get an echo of Hamlet. Hamlet speaks the same thing. Hamlet speaks about the same thing in Shakespeare's Hamlet means Shakespeare's Hamlet, in Shakespeare's play Hamlet. He also says that if a man lives his life simply by eating, drinking, sleeping, his life is not better than the life of animal. How, as a human, we are better than the animals? If we live just like them. Animals, why do animals live for? What is the chief objective of the life of animals? Simply eating, drinking, and nothing more. So if we human beings with this mighty brain, with such a powerful brain, simply just collect food, store food, feed on, sleep and rest and mate, how we are different then from the animals? Same thing here Ulysses means to say that. So now here Ulysses says, and this grey spirit, old spirit. So he says, now he is old, no doubt at all. He does not have that strength, that stamina, that power he had in his youth age, but yet old age has its own merit. Old age has its own experience. Fine. He does not have that stamina, but he has experience under his belt. And now he wants to make use of that experience. And once again, he wants to go on one more voyage. And now he wants to follow knowledge just like a sinking star. Why? Because if a person moves on the current of the water of the sea under the bright moon in the night time, right in front of the person, that seaman, he sees a star just close to the horizon. And the more he goes closer and closer and closer, it seems to him that star goes into the ocean. That star sinks. Means knowledge can never be completed. One can One cannot boast of having complete knowledge of anything. The second thing, here Ulysses himself is a sinking star. It means he himself is old and any time he can sink. Means any time he can die. This is the second reference. First reference, that knowledge of this world one can never have complete knowledge of this world. First one, and that's why knowledge is just like us. To follow knowledge is to follow a sinking star. Second thing, he himself is here a sinking star. Anytime he can sink, means die. But now he wants to follow. He wants to follow like us. He wants to follow knowledge like a sinking star beyond the utmost thought of the human. Means now he does not want to stop. He wants to explore and travel non-stop. Now he wants to die exploring. He wants to die traveling on the couch of the water. That's it. That's it in this video, my dear learners. Provided that you find some complications, do feel absolutely free to let me know.